Good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Thursday, July 1st, 2021. And here is our top story, a severe need for long-term care. Joining me now to discuss this and a lot more is Alessandra Melito. She's retirement reporter for MarketWatch. Allie, so great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it's great to talk with you, and I love that you are the retirement reporter at MarketWatch because we could talk about all things related to retirement. And as you know, retirement isn't just about putting money away in your 401k or your pension. It's about long-term care, health care, all the things that you'll need in retirement. And you recently did a story, it's kind of long-winded, I apologize, but you recently did a story about the severe need that many Americans will have for long-term care. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, so long-term care is one of those things that a lot of advisors are starting to acknowledge more and tell people that they should really incorporate into their retirement planning. I mean, it was always important, but it just seems to be more popular as a topic these days. Long-term care basically means the things that you are so used to doing on your own that you can no longer do, like bathing or cooking or, putting on your clothes, things like that. You're going to need some assistance. And there are various forms of it. It's a very broad topic. So it could be at-home aid, or it could be in a nursing home, or it could be in an assisted living facility. But all of that costs money, lots of money. So with nursing homes, for example, you could be looking at $100,000 a year. At least that was around the average last year in 2020, according to one study. Or, maybe you spend half of that, but that's at-home care. And it really depends on how many hours you're going to need. Some people only need a couple of hours to help with, taking medications and things like that. Other people might need 24-hour assistance. So long-term care has become just more necessary to think about. A lot of people are living longer. A lot of people are worried that they're not going to have enough money. So if you take this into account now, you might hedge against some really unfortunate scenarios later in life.
Yeah, and the article that you had written indicated that, and I know it was based on a study, I think from the Center of Retirement Research, but about a quarter of Americans are going to, first of all, need long-term care, and I guess we all will need it in some capacity because we're all going to lose some functions of our hands, or just getting dressed will be very difficult. But this is really a big issue, and I want to separate this from healthcare. This is different than that big healthcare cost that you and I have talked about, that $200,000 and some odd that I think Fidelity or Empower Retirement Institute have, or maybe both of them have estimated. This is a separate and distinct amount of money that will be needed.
Yeah, so Fidelity comes out once a year with their analysis of how much a retired couple at 65 years old could expect to spend in retirement for healthcare alone. And it's like some crazy number, like $200-something thousand. But you're right, that number does not include long-term care. And long-term care is also not typically covered in most health insurance policies or in Medicare. I mean, Medicare doesn't even take into consideration dental and hearing and all that. So they definitely don't take into consideration long-term care, which means that people need to plan for it. Some people choose to self-insure, which just means that they're saving a significant amount of money for their old age and the health care that they'll need, or the living arrangements that they'll need. Some people choose to do multiple policies, like with Medicare, they stack on to it so that it's not just the original Medicare. And then some people might be interested in doing something like long-term care insurance. The premiums vary based on your age and your gender, your health history, things like that. And you have to you really have to balance it out because it's a trade-off. You're paying a substantial amount of money in the nearer term, and you might not need it. So some people they're not crazy about that idea because you don't want to lose all that money for no reason. And others, the best type of, what do they say? the best type of insurance is the type of insurance that you don't need. So
Yep.
to have that in mind. But yeah, it is something that whether you are self-funding or you are looking at insurance policies, you should think about a little bit, or which something that I really find important is talking to family members about this. That is probably the most proactive thing that you can do, because your family members are most likely going to be the ones who are helping you, whether it be financially or physically, with like going to doctor's offices or, helping you out of bed and things like that. The study that I wrote about the other day looked at health data from the last 2 decades and found that some people are more likely to need long-term care services than others. So people who are married, for example, might not need it as much as their single counterparts, because they might have a spouse to rely on for those, bathing, clothing, cooking, things like that. And it also, they broke it down by race, education, and various other factors.
Yeah, and you bring up a really good point that I want to hit on here, and we've only got about 2 minutes for your response. We can pick it up after the break. The home care industry is one that is really struggling to find workers. I think the rate of pay is a little bit below, is not even, I think we've talked about this, you and I, is I think just a little north of minimum wage, or not very significant, so it's hard to attract people there. But you bring up a good point. Our family members, it used to be that our grandparents and our parents would live with us, right? The family lived together. Now we're spread all over the country, or all over the world in some cases. I'm living in Charlotte. My brother lives in Arlington, Massachusetts. My parents live in Baltimore. So you really need to think long and hard about who's going to be delivering care to you as an individual.
Yeah, absolutely. Caregiving is one of those things that a lot of family members are just kind of ushered into unknowingly sometimes, or, their older loved ones might expect them to take on that role, but nobody ever had that conversation with them, so then they end up in it. It is a very difficult job. If you end up doing it yourself as opposed to going with a professional, it could really affect your own personal finances. It's just, there are so many different scenarios that can really come out of somebody becoming, elderly or ill, and it's important to have multiple conversations about that.
Yeah. Well, Allie, like I said, I need to take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll talk more about long-term planning and how you can think about home care. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score, a credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit Repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. We're talking to Alessandra Melito of Market Watch. Ali, thanks for staying with us this morning.
Of course.
So I want to pick up on something that was referenced in the article, but also something that you just mentioned, the erosion of retirement assets. Certainly something that is underappreciated. Look, we're always thinking about today, buying the boat, going on vacation, taking our kids to soccer practice, whatever, or football practice, or whatever sport you play, or dance recital. But really, if you don't have enough socked away, or if you're using money to care for your mother, your father, or a family member, this could significantly erode your own retirement assets, much less the retirement assets of the family member.
Yeah, absolutely. So becoming a family caregiver is one of those jobs that I don't think anybody would turn down because, obviously you love your loved ones, you want to take care of them, you want to help them. But it is a very difficult position to be in for a lot of people because in some cases it really is a surprise. I mean, it's not like there's a timeline for somebody to be like, dad needs help now. Like, dad's going to need help in 5 years. Your father might need help in 5 years, 10 years. Really, there's no way of knowing something like that. So it kind of just ends up as a surprise. That being said, when that does happen, whenever it happens, some people end up having to work part-time because they're spending so much of their time taking care of their loved one, which would then obviously reduce their wages. Or they have to leave the workforce altogether for a short period of time, which if you have your own savings and you have that cushion to fall back on, that's great. But that does affect things like Social Security. Caregivers typically tend to be women, and they tend to be, in their 40s or 50s. And in that case, family caregivers, in that case, their retirement security is really on the line. Those would be the years where they're at their peak earnings. They're not paying into Social Security. They have halted their retirement savings. In some cases, they might need to even tap into their retirement savings to help. And it could be emotionally and mentally and financially draining. Of course, at the end of the day, I've talked to many caregivers. I've even had some in my family, and it's a job you would do regardless because whoever it is your family and you want to make sure they're okay, but it's a big role.
Yeah, and let's not underestimate, Ali, the mental health aspect to this of the caregiver. We've just been through a pandemic. I think we've learned a lot and are learning a lot about the impact of quarantining, being away from our loved ones, even going through maladies and being sick, what that does to your mental health. And we know that mental health, if you're not of sound mind because you're distracted, it has an impact on financial health. And those things are really connected. Any thoughts about trying to, maybe some studies that are being done or how to maybe survive, for lack of a better term, and to improve the mental outcomes for a lot of people in this situation?
It sounds very cliche, but taking a little bit of time for yourself is crucial. So many caregivers, family caregivers, I'm focusing on, of course, they burn out. It's not just about the finances. It's also the emotion. Like you're watching your loved ones sick or in need, and you might have, if it's a parent, you might have been used to, and the parent might have been used to the role reversal where they're taking care of you. So there are lots of emotions going on, and the timeline for each and every day can be very exhausting, what with, maybe helping with medications or helping somebody out of bed or, trying to fight with them to do something that should help them, but, they're being stubborn. So taking time for yourself is very, very important, whether that be something as simple as just like a walk, maybe a 30-minute walk around the neighborhood, or planning a trip. If you have other family members that you can rely on and, they're nearby or there's family friends or like a little community, anything like that, and you can, step outside of your regular daily life for even just a weekend, taking in the fresh air or doing something you enjoy, that's really crucial. A lot of people, they get stuck in their routine, taking care of their loved ones, and it could be depressing, and they might end up not doing anything for themselves at the end of the day, except sitting on the couch, not even treating themselves to a healthy meal, and that's not that's not good for the family member, and it's not good for the person who's acting as the caregiver.
Yeah, it has a lot of detrimental effects, and it's a domino effect over time. Last question, Allie. We talked about how Medicare doesn't cover a lot of expenses, including long-term care. You know what's happening in the Congress. You hear things from advisors and people who are consultants. Is there any word that this is something that might be looked at by the Congress or legislators or regulators at some point in the future? Because we have an aging population. Let's face it, we're getting older, but we're living longer. To your point earlier in segment 1, any thoughts that this could be handled legislatively?
If I could guess what Congress was going to do regarding retirement security on any given day, I would be a very, very wealthy individual. And I don't know. I don't know. I would say that retirement security, thankfully, has become a much more important topic for Congress. I have noticed that they're doing hearings on retirement security to hear out, things about pensions and healthcare and stuff like that. So it is promising. As far as what happens and when, I mean, I'm never sure. There's so much up in the air right now with President Biden's proposals and just Democrats and Republicans working together on these sorts of things. Obviously, retirement security typically is a bipartisan issue. A lot of people do agree when it comes to like 401ks and saving for retirement. But as far as things like Social Security and Medicare, I feel like it's always a much more heated debate and something that we can only just hope they make a move on soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Allie, it's always a pleasure to see you. Great to chat with you. Great article as always. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Thanks.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the information in retirement markets, technology, personal finance, so much more all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. We're back again tomorrow, so until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Are you being audited, and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.